We good? We live. We're live. I think we're live, folks. I'm going to start because they told me we're live. Anyhow, thanks for tuning in to episode 15. Holy cow. Episode 15 of Elk Talk Live question and answer session brought to you by Bowtech, Leupold, onXmaps, Ripcord, Tightspot, Black Gold. Seems like I'm forgetting one. Hope not. Anyhow, if you want to be notified of these, text Randy, R-A-N-D-Y, to 313131. And last week, some people expressed frustration because we weren't getting to their questions. Well, between all of the Facebook pages, all the YouTube pages, and the live stream pages, we're getting probably 1,000 questions every session. So I'm sorry we don't get to all of them. I go back out to YouTube and a lot of the Facebook pages, and I try to answer some of them. After this, I'll spend most of the evening trying to answer questions. So anyhow, thanks for watching. Glad you're here, and let's get right into it. Because right now, elk season's open in Utah, Nevada, Idaho, Colorado. Friday it opens in Wyoming and New Mexico. And then the next day it opens in Montana, and then later in the month it opens in Arizona. So it's open in Oregon also. So we're in it. We're in the midst of it. So you guys got any questions yet?
Someone asked if it's legal to film while elk hunting in Montana.
Someone asked, is it legal to film while elk hunting in Montana? Yes, it is. Better be, or I'm in trouble. But for us, because we do a commercial operation, same if it's for anything that's commercial related, we need public land film permits. Now, if you're on private land, it doesn't apply. If you're on federal land, you got to get a film permit, and that's if it's used for a commercial purpose. So go hunt, go film your own hunt, get out there with your smart bow, put an arrow in them, and have a great time. Capture it on film if you can. But I will warn you that trying to film your own hunt usually messes up the hunt. So I'm saying that from experience. So, what else we got next, guys?
Here's a question that's probably impossible to answer.
Oh, this one might be impossible to answer.
How much dollar per pound of elk meat would you get over-the-counter elk tag in Colorado?
What would be the dollar per pound of elk meat for an over-the-counter elk hunt in Colorado? I don't know, probably more than you want to pay, but I don't hunt just for the food. If you want the high-quality food like comes from hunting, you're going to pay more. Go down to the meat shop and see what organic, free-range, high lean protein costs you. It's really expensive. So don't, and if you're married and you try to equate hunting as some sort of economic return, your wife is going to just flat out laugh in your face. We hunt for a lot of other reasons besides just the meat. Yes, the meat is great, and that is my primary reason for hunting. But I do it because of the conservation aspects. I do it because of the cultural aspects. I do it because it connects me to a natural world in a way that I never want to be disconnected. So that's impossible. You're right, Marcus. That one's impossible to answer. But
how often do you clean your elk rifle while practicing?
How often do I clean my elk rifle while practicing? Not that often. I give it one really good scrub in the summer. Shoot all summer. I give it another really good scrub, probably, in the first part of August. And then I get that thing dialed in, and I'm just a dry patch guy the rest of the season. I don't use any treatments on it. It's strictly a dry patch. So it's kind of like archery hunting. You know, if you were out shooting your bow in August, are you going to be changing and tweaking things that change the point of impact of your arrow? No. You're going to go through hunting season with it dialed the same way. You're not going to touch it. Pretty much applies to hunting or rifle hunting. So what do we got? Michael, you got anything?
What are you going to do about the drought in Montana for elk?
What am I going to do about the drought for Montana elk?
I'm assuming that.
Yeah, we're undergoing a huge drought here in Montana. Serious fires. They're talking about possibly having to close some of the areas that are high fire prone areas. We've had it happen before. They haven't officially announced it. Some of the block management areas, which are private lands open to hunting, some of those are being closed. But the elk still got to do what they got to do. When it's pre-rut, when it's peak rut, guess what? Elk have to breed. It doesn't matter if it's drought, whether it's monsoon, whatever it is, the elk got to do what they got to do. They deal with these conditions all the time. So go out there, do your normal plan, understand it's going to be drier, so water might be a little bit more to your advantage, but just go out and hunt. Don't worry about those kind of things. Marcus?
Do you have any late season tactics for Roosevelt elk?
Any late season tactics for Roosevelt elk? My tactic there would be to go to Oregon or Washington and try to figure out what the best late season tactic would be, because I've never hunted them. So no, I wish I did. I think I need to go to Oregon and archery hunt them, because the season opens earlier. I've never done it before, so it would be so humbling. It would be so much fun. And see if I can get one with my Bowtech. And I don't know. If you want me to make something up, I can do that, but I'm not inclined to do it.
Do you think that an active fire will help cover your scent?
Will an active fire help cover your scent? No. They can smell human scent. Just make sure you're playing the wind. Don't count on artificial scents, natural scents, whatever, to cover your human scent, because we can't smell ourselves, but an elk can smell us so easy. It's like, I don't care if there's a skunk here, I don't care if there's a fire with smoke here, they can filter that out and smell that human scent immediately. So my answer to that, no.
What is the best bull call for a beginner?
What's the best bull call for a beginner? I'm a big fan of diaphragm calls. I would go get a diaphragm call and start working on it, figuring out how to use it, because over the course of time, that's going to be your best option. You're going to have to get there anyhow. The sooner you start getting comfortable and knowing how to use a diaphragm call, the better off you're going to be. Everybody knows that they see me carrying these Rocky Mountain hunting call ones around. In archery season, you can get so many different tones, fluctuations with a diaphragm call. It can be your cow call, it can be your bugle, all in one. So I would just go do it and make sure you're playing with it, practicing, and you'll get the hang of it. Don't worry about that. What else we got?
Would you rather hunt in a burn area a half mile away from the road, or go really far away using the onXmap layers?
Would I rather hunt a burn area a half mile from a road, or go way, way back in a non-burn area just using the onXmaps layers?
The roadless area.
The roadless area. It depends on which season. We always talk about the 5 seasons of elk hunting. The early season, pre-rut, peak rut, post-rut, late season. The answer to that would depend on which season I'm hunting. If I was hunting early season or late season, I'm probably going far from a road, maybe even post-rut. If it's pre-rut or peak rut, there's a very good chance that in that burn, those cows are in there. And even if it's a half mile from the road, those bulls are going to be where the cows are. So it somewhat depends.
Which rangefinder do you use?
Which rangefinder do I use? That's interesting that someone would ask. It's this one right here. Leupold RX 1200. Can they see that?
Yep.
It's the 1200i TBR, true ballistic range. It takes all the angle compensation into account. You can adjust the brightness. You can put it in bow mode. You can put it in all kinds of things. As good of a rangefinder as you're probably going to find, especially for the price. Don't leave home without one. Oh, and we've done some videos about rangefinders. So quickly, rangefinder comes out of here. The laser pulse comes out of the bottom here at about 600 pulses a second. Now imagine if that rangefinder angle is just slightly off kilter. So at 100 yards, that angle is slightly to the left. And now it's ranging the rock that's, 25 yards behind, or at 60 yards, it's ranging the rock or the bush 12 yards in front. So because your rangefinder isn't perfectly lined up, you're not getting a proper reading. We did a YouTube video of how you can test that. Go and do it. Go and test your rangefinder. Go to our YouTube video. I can't explain it all here, but make sure your rangefinder is exactly aligned with where your crosshair is in your rangefinder.
When you apply for New Mexico non-resident elk, do you swing for the fences or apply for hunts where you have a decent chance at drawing?
When I apply in New Mexico, which does not have a point system, do I swing for the fences or do I apply for units that have a decent chance of drawing? Both. New Mexico looks at the first 3 choices of any applicant before they go on to the next person. So I always swing for the fence in my first choice. My second choice is usually still pretty hard to draw. My third choice is a lot easier to draw. So if I got drawn with a low random number and I have like the greatest unit in New Mexico, I'm going to get it because I got the low random number. Well, maybe I didn't get the low random number. I got an average random number. I might get this one or this one. So they're going to look at any 3 choices of mine before they go to the person whose random number is behind me. Have a strategy about how you do it. In New Mexico, where they look at 3 choices, Arizona looks at 2, Nevada looks at 5. Those states that look at multiple choices have a strategy. Apply for a really hard tag in your first or maybe first and second choice, and then make easier to draw hunts your third, fourth, or fifth choice.
Do cow elk decoys work while calling in bulls? Are they worth carrying with you?
Do cow elk decoys work during the rut? Is it worth carrying it with you? You're going to get all kinds of opinions on this. The idea behind the decoy is you call from here, your decoy is there, and you know that the bull is going to come downwind and he's going to look at where he heard the sound. Well, if you have a decoy there, when he comes in and looks, he sees something there. And normally, if you're by yourself, you're going to put your decoy in the ground. They come with these stakes, you drive them in, you call from there, and you run downwind some other place away from the decoy because you know the bull's going to circle down there. Well, you want him to circle down while he's still looking at where the decoy was. So, does it work? I think it does to some degree, but it's not like you wave it around and say, "Here, bull, come see this decoy." Is it worth the wait? Depends on how far back in you are and how much other stuff you're carrying. Try it. Maybe it'll work for you.
When you are out hunting, where do you usually camp? National Forest, BLM, state parks, etc., and why?
When I'm out hunting, where do I usually camp? Forest Service, BLM, state parks, or other, and why? I usually camp, I would say most of the time on BLM or Forest Service lands. The state parks usually have way too many people, way too much traffic. They're usually way too far from where we're going to be hunting. I want to camp someplace that is in close proximity, say a 10, 15-minute drive to multiple possible places I might hunt. And that's usually on the Forest Service or usually on the BLM.
If you call in a bull and he busts you or wins you, do you think they will recognize the sound of your call again when you get back on him?
If you call in a bull and he wins you or busts you, will he recognize your call next time you try to call him in? Boy, I wish I knew the answer to that. I suspect he's going to be pretty suspicious. You're probably going to have to wait a few hours before his guard is back down. And if you feel that he busted you, change up the tone and the type of calling that you're doing, and maybe it won't be a problem.
What's your favorite DQ blizzard?
What's my favorite Dairy Queen blizzard? Chocolate Extreme with chocolate ice cream. Throw in some raspberry truffle if you can. What's with all the Dairy Queen questions? I'm going to have to quit talking about that stuff. So.
How many pounds do you carry in your pack, and what is the priority of choice?
How many pounds?
Yeah.
How many pounds do I carry in my pack, and what is the priority of choice?
Yeah, so for elk hunting.
For elk hunting. That would depend on if it's a day hunt or a backpack hunt, but I'm going to assume it's a day hunt. So we are probably carrying heavier packs than you need to because we've got all of our daily gear And then we've also got all of our production gear. I don't know if my pack is in here tonight. I think it's over in my garage. My pack, if I took all my production gear out, the pack plus its contents, the water, the food, survival stuff, extra clothing, you name it, is probably going to be 20 to 25 pounds as my day pack. Priority, the things that I put in there is depending on the type of hunt I'm doing. I'll probably put a spotting scope in there. A lot of times that's worth the extra weight. Other than that, over years and years of doing this, I've kind of thinned out what I need and what works. Out on our YouTube channel, we've done a bunch of bag dumps. Go out and watch that, and you'll see the stuff that we use. And we're going to be doing more bag dumps this year. I think on every hunt, we're probably just going to do a bag dump and say, here's, this is our archery elk bag. Going to be a lot of duplicity, a lot of overlap of the same stuff, whether it's rifle or archery.
Will all my preseason scouting go out the window this weekend due to the influx of people in the mountains doing general recreating for the holiday?
Will all my preseason scouting go out the window this weekend because of the influx of people for the Labor Day weekend? I would suggest that if you planned on hunting this weekend, that was part of your scouting. Is, okay, I'm going to scout and have my e-scouting, my desk scouting. If I'm hunting Labor Day weekend, I better be accounting for that in my scouting. Because yes, that much activity in the woods is probably going to displace the elk and move them to places. Wherever you saw them on Friday, they're probably not going to be there by Saturday afternoon. So I would have been thinking about that as you're planning your hunt for the Labor Day weekend.
Is a 3 to 9x scope good enough for Western hunting? On long shots, do you hold over or use your CDS dial?
Right. So is a 3 to 9 variable power scope good enough for Western hunting? And on long shots, do I hold over or do I use my CDS dials? A 3 to 9, I can't tell you how many of my rifles have had 3 to 9 power scopes, and they work just great. Just get a high quality scope. You see that I use the VX3s, VX3i now. With Leupold would be their 3 to 9 model. Do I hold over? No. I get CDS dials, which are custom dial system. It's a proprietary dial system that Leupold has. You just spin the dial to whatever your rangefinder tells you, and you hold dead on. None of this holdover stuff, and it works so slick. At normal hunting ranges, I don't know of anything that works better than the CDS system from Leupold.
Have you ever rattled with antlers when the rut is heavy?
Have I ever rattled with antlers when the rut is heavy? Hold on, hold on, hold on. Somewhere in this box here. This is a new call that just came out from Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls. It's called the rattle cage. They've discovered that a lot of times, especially in the pre-rut and early season when elk just rub their velvet, you'll hear this tickling of antlers. And who wants to carry 2 big elk antlers out in the woods, right? So for guys hunting tree stands over water or hunting blinds over water, this might be an opportunity. So I've never done it because that call is brand new this year. It'll be interesting to see how it works.
What food do you take with you for a day hunt? I'm getting tired of just eating Lunchables 8 miles in the middle of nowhere.
What food do I take on a day hunt? I'm tired of eating Lunchables 8 miles in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, if you're eating Lunchables, you're probably going to run out of energy. In a day hunt, I always eat a powerful breakfast, I should say. I bring with me a whole assortment of foods. I bring proteins and other energy foods that are going to get me through the day. Don't show up with a bag of chips and a candy bar. Think about the food. What you put into your body is what's going to sustain you throughout the day. And you can probably get by. I usually have a sandwich. I usually have some sort of bar, maybe a couple of them. And that whole thing is going to weigh less than a pound, and it's going to get me through the whole day.
Starting on an afternoon hunt, would your strategy start at the top of a ridge and work down, or would you wait for the thermals to change and work uphill?
An afternoon hunt, would I start at the top of the ridge and work down, or would I wait for the thermals to change and then use the thermals? If it's the middle of the afternoon, you better be up above the elk because the thermals are coming uphill. If you try to come in from below them in the middle of the afternoon when that wind is going uphill, you don't have a chance. So yeah, I'd start up above them, whether it's at the top of the ridge or wherever up that ridge puts me up above where the wind is going. I want the wind coming from them to me. If it's late in the afternoon and then it's evening and all of a sudden the thermals are coming down the hill because it's getting colder air that's heavier, then I'm going to be at their level or I'm going to try to get down below them. It's pretty simple. You have to have the wind in your favor. You need the wind coming from them to you. Anything even closely from you to them, and your odds are just about zero.
How often will a bull visit a watering hole during pre-rut?
How often will a bull visit a watering hole during pre-rut? A lot. Depends on the temperatures, depending on how active he is. That's usually September 1st to about September 8th or 10th. They will come frequently. Probably at least once a day they'll have to water. Some of the younger bulls will really be getting active by that time of the year, and they're going to be out there wallowing, splashing, drinking, cooling off. I would not discount water in the hot part of early September, especially in the states, well, any state where it's warm and dry.
In an over-the-counter archery rut hunt, would you prioritize calling and moving or glassing in the early days of the hunt?
Over-the-counter rut hunt?
Yeah.
Would
Archery.
archery rut hunt, would I glass or would I call? Not even a question, I'd be calling. In a lot of the places where you're going to find them, glassing is harder. You're going to see a lot less of them. And then even over the counter, if it's an archery season, like we're going to be doing an archery elk hunt here in Montana, and I think we're going the 12th through the 16th. That's a little more of the peak rut. But I'm going to be out in the dark, moving, 10, 12-mile days. That's just how you do it. They're calling, you need to be moving. They're very active and mobile. You got to be active and mobile. So again, this whole thing here is brought to you and is funded / distributed by Bowtech and Leupold and onXmaps, Black Gold Sights, Ripcord Arrow Rests, Tightspot Quivers. Can't thank them enough. They want us to just spread as much elk information as we can, and that's what we're doing. So I hope that you think about them when you're going out buying your products. More questions?
Are there any books you would recommend for hunters and outdoorsmen?
Oh, if you go to our YouTube channels or our podcasts, I've went through that list multitude of times. I think anyone who's into hunting needs to read the Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leupold. If you're an elk hunter, you need to read the book Elk and Elk Ecology by Jack Ward Thomas. If you're into conservation history, you need to read The Last Stand by Michael Punke. If you're into public land stuff, you need to read The Big Burn by Tim Egan. The list is miles long, but there's a lot of great stuff out there.
When in grizzly country, will you still walk in well before sunrise?
In grizzly country, will I walk in well before sunrise? Yep, I do. And I walk out well after dark. And you got to be there. And I get some people are unnerved by that. But make sure you have your bear spray and go do it.
How far will you hike to scout an area prior to the hunt?
How far will I hike to scout an area prior to the hunt? Not that far. I do most of my scouting at my desk and at my computer. If I've got a spot in my pre-scouting that says, hey, there's a good glassing knob here, I'll hike a couple miles to get to that glassing knob and just spend the whole morning or whole evening glassing, looking around. But I don't, and this is a little bit unique to us because we don't get a lot of scouting time on the ground. We end up going from place to place. We show up, we got 5 days, we better figure it out, sort it out, and pack it out. So I'm just being honest there. I don't do a lot of it. Whatever you think makes sense for your area is probably the correct answer. My answer is tainted by the fact that we don't get the time to go and do it.
I've seen you often use Sitka gear. Do you have any opinions on synthetic materials versus wool or other fibers?
The person asked, I see you use Sitka gear. Do I have opinions about wool and other fibers, synthetics and wool versus each other versus other fibers? I'm a huge fan of merino wool as my base layer. From my briefs to my shirt, I use a long sleeve zip tee merino shirt. If it's cold, I use a merino bottom, and everything other than that is synthetic. Synthetics can be designed, if high quality synthetics will have a very rapid moisture evaporation rate. They'll have membranes that can stop wind. They're just all kinds of things where the weight to warmth and weight to dryness factors of the synthetics are way higher than just wools. That said, my base layer is always merino wool.
If you're only bow hunting, what sleeping bag would you recommend?
If I'm only bow hunting, what sleeping bag would I recommend? Again, that's depends on where I'm bow hunting. If I'm bow hunting in Arizona, it's going to be different than if I'm bow hunting in northern Idaho. Usually I'm carrying a down bag, and that down bag is a 20 to 25 degree bag. Just usually in archery season, I don't need anything more than that.
How do you handle buck fever?
Not very well. The question is, how do I handle buck fever? I'm like everybody else. I get excited, man. For me, it's, and I know this is probably overstated, the old pick a spot. There's a reason everybody says pick a spot. It's a way to focus and get your mind on something other than, oh, look at that thing. Oh, gee, I've hunted all day. There's my chance. In archery season, for me, it's harder to focus than it is in rifle season. I think it's just that closeness, that encounter, that bugling, the whole adrenaline rush. For me, when I'm rifle hunting, the way that I do it is when I'm lined up and I've got my crosshairs, I force myself to stay on the rifle to try watch the impact of the bullet through the scope. That forces you to follow through. And it's still, when I lose buck fever, quote unquote, which I think is just the excitement of the hunt, I'm probably done hunting.
What calling tactics will you be using for opening day elk?
What calling tactics will I be using for opening day elk? Unfortunately, I won't be here on opening day in Montana. I won't get a chance to start calling until peak rut. So if I was hunting opening day, I'd still be bugling. I'd be trying to get responses, and when I heard them, I'd get as close as I possibly could. And maybe they continue to call and let me know where they're at. And if so, I'm just going to get closer and closer. If I hear them and we're kind of having this back and forth, I'm just going to get as close as I can. I'll challenge them. So I've changed my mind from cow calling to bugling. I've become a bigger fan of bugling and less of a fan of cow calling.
What grain bullet would you use in your 7mm 08 for elk?
What would I use in my 7mm 08 as a bullet weight for elk? I'd use 140 grain Nosler partitions or Acubons or E-tips. I've used all of those in my 7mm 08, and they are extremely lethal.
What's your best tip for hunting late season elk?
What's my best tip for hunting late season elk? It's funny that you'd ask that. We just did a video on a bunch of this stuff today. That tactic is glass. Get there early, be there for that half hour before the sun really gets up very far, because that's when they're still going to be out. They're heading to their bed after that. Stay there all day and be there for that last half hour in the evening. Glass is late season tactic. I can't see you guys with these lights here, so I don't know where you're standing. I hear a dog barking out there.
When cow hunting, is there any benefit to calling?
When cow hunting, is there any benefit to calling? I'm assuming that you're talking about in the archery season. There might be. I've called in a lot of cow elk with cow calls before, so maybe. But you might be able to just spot and stalk them if they're bedded, or you might be able to just wait them out on a trail. wait them out at water, or on their way to go and feed in the evening, or coming back from feed in the morning.
How many releases do you take on an archery hunt, and what style do you prefer?
Let me see. There you go. This is what I prefer. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. There's a lot of really talented archery people who could probably give a better answer than I can. For me, I bring this one with me, and then I always have one in my kit. And there you go. That's what I use for archery hunting. It's a Carter Quickie, but it works great for me. There's all kinds of good releases.
Multiple people have asked to hear that bugle.
Hear this bugle?
Yeah.
Huh. I don't have a cow call with me or a diaphragm with me to do it.
Okay.
So I'll have to have one with me next week. And then we'll go, bugle.
Do you have any recommendations on learning how to bugle?
Recommendations learning how to bugle. Go and watch as many videos as you can. Practice. I come out in this shop and I bugle all the time. Neighbors are like, what's Randy doing now? Driving down the road, I'm cow calling all the time. It's all about practice. Go out, listen to elk. Listen to how you sound, compare how they sound, and you're going to make mistakes. I still make tons of mistakes. I'm not that great of a caller. But the way I get better is by just calling and trying. So go do it.
Why do you cow call after you shoot a bull, especially with a bow?
Why do people cow call after they shoot a bull in archery season? The idea is that if you cow call, you're going to slow them down, you're going to put them at ease, and they're not going to go so far. So it's going to be easier to follow the blood trail. Hopefully you'll find them, especially if it's maybe not the perfect hit you hope for. The idea is if you can slow them down, get them to bed sooner, your chances of recovery go way up.
Multiple people have asked about what you do for scent elimination.
Multiple people have asked what I do about scent elimination. And if you go back to any of the other previous Elk Talk or live Q&A episodes, the question's been asked many times. I think that scent elimination is a joke for mountain hunting elk. If you're running up and down these mountains in September and it's hot, even when it's not hot, there's no scent control product that is going to keep your odor or to mitigate it. The only scent control product there is the wind. And I know some people will argue with me to the end of time. Ask anyone who successfully kills lots of bull elk on public land in the archery season what scent control product they use, and just about every one of them are going to say the wind. So, I know some people are going to say, I don't believe that, or I have confidence in this or that, and that's fine. But I'm just, giving you my opinion. I'd rather have you spend your money on better equipment, on more tags, more applications, and more fun.
What do you use to waterproof your boots?
What do I use to waterproof my boots? We did a whole YouTube series on boot care. For a leather boot like I have, you want to use some sort of beeswax type base. If you use an animal oil base, what happens is the animal oil penetrates the leather, and where the high quality boots are glued, the rand is what they call it, where they're glued and sealed to the leather, that like mink oil and other animal oils will get in there and start causing the glues to deteriorate. Use a beeswax rub or wax. I'm really liberal with mine. I'm waxing mine all the time, especially in periods when there's snow or rain or a lot of dew on the grass.
Following that up, someone asked what model of Kenetrex you are using.
What model of Kenetrex boot do I wear? I'm a big fan of the non-insulated Mountain Extreme. I will wear them in archery season all the way to when it gets down to 10 degrees in November. I'm one of those lucky people that I don't get cold feet, but there's a reason I don't get cold feet. I grew up in northern Minnesota where it's cold all the time, and you quickly learn how to take care of your feet. Do not put your hunting socks and your hunting boots on at camp. Don't put them on while you're driving to the trailhead. have your, just your whatever your camp shoes are. It might be a pair of tennis shoes, whatever. Have a different pair of socks. When you get to the trailhead, then put your hunting socks on, then put your hunting boots on. Also have a really good gaiter that goes over your pant leg, because one of the ways you get moisture inside your boot is your pant leg starts getting all wet, and through adhesion, water molecules are attracted to each other. They start working their way up your pant leg, right? And then they hit your sock. When they hit your sock, they start working, those molecules start working down into your boot. Pretty soon you got a wet foot. A wet foot is a cold foot. So, long answer to easy question, I guess.
What detergent do you use to wash your Sitka gear?
Whatever, I can't even remember what it is. I think I have a what would you call it, an odor-free detergent. I don't know, low UV odor-free detergent is what I use. Nothing special. Sporting goods stores have all kinds of different brands of no UV detergent, and you want something without any type of odors. So.
Do you rely on your Sitka gear to keep you dry, or do you use different rain gear?
No, I use my Sitka gear to keep me dry, depending on how much moisture we're talking about. If it's snow, just the DWR finish on any of the products, whether it's the Jetstream jacket or any of those, that DWR finish is going to take care of most light rain and all snow. If it really starts hammering, I have the Stormfront series that I use, and it's bomb-proof. So that's what I end up using.
For antelope hunting in Wyoming, is it best to use a cow decoy?
Antelope hunting in Wyoming, is it best to use a cow decoy? I'd let the antelope tell you that. If you're archery hunting, it depends. If you're rifle hunting, yes, do not use an animal imitation if you're rifle hunting. A lot of times you see us using the cow decoys because we're trying to hide a hunter, maybe a guest, and a camera guy. So we like the big cow decoys for antelope. Just helps us get a little bit closer. But like everything, it doesn't work 100% of the time. It's going to work some of the time, but not all the time.
Do you have different tactics for when it's hot outside for elk hunting in the rut?
Do I have different tactics for hunting elk in the rut when it's really hot? Yeah, probably a little bit. And how my daily tactic is, I definitely want to be as close to them as possible early in the morning, because heat doesn't necessarily change. Oh, they're going to rut a week later. What it does is they're going to do all their rutting in the dark when it's cooler, and in that first hour in the morning, and then they got to head to their beds. So I'm gonna be right there as close as possible when I can, when it's really hot. And I'm gonna be in the afternoon. I'm gonna go to where I know they bedded, and I'm gonna be right next to them, however close I can get, following the wind, so that when they get up and start rutting again in the afternoon, I'm gonna be right there. Other tactic I will use if it's super hot is in the middle of the day, I will try to ambush a bull that's on his way to water, because a bull will come, bed his cows, and he will silently go to water sometime during the day if it's super hot.
When hanging your meat overnight, how do you keep the bears away from it?
How do you keep?
Love your show.
Thanks. Person says they love the show. Appreciate that. How do you keep bears away from your meat while it's hanging overnight? If there's a lot of bears around, sometimes it's going to attract them. But for me, I go hang my meat far from the carcass, because you see that we do the gutless method. Go out to our YouTube channel, you'll see how we do this gutless method. So the carcass, all the bones, the guts, everything stay in one spot. 200-300 yards away, I go hang all that really good meat. I hang it in some place that's more open, where a bear probably is going to be a little less interested in going there versus maybe coming to a carcass, a boned out carcass that's laying in a dense pile of brush or in the wooded areas. So you can do a lot of things that kind of help the bear decide, I think I'll go eat on that gut pile, rather than go try to chew on that boned out or quartered up meat that's hanging in a tree over there.
How big do you think a kill zone on a bull elk is?
How big do I think a kill zone on a bull elk is? About that big. I don't know. 12 inches by 12 inches is probably a safe bet if you center it right here. Big enough, but trust me, I've missed one a time or two, so maybe it needs to be bigger. I got elk fever. At night it's cooling down, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta go elk hunting. What do we got?
What's your preferred rifle for elk hunting?
Preferred rifle for elk hunting. Everybody who watches our show knows that I'm usually carrying my Howa Alpine mountain rifle in a 308, shooting 165 grain Nosler partitions, and the scope on it is a VX6 HD from Leupold, usually a 2-12 or a 3-18. So, are we out of batteries yet, guys?
We're getting close.
We're getting close. All right, we got a few more, right?
Yeah, this.
But people need to remember to share this stuff, and they need to text Randy to the number 313131. Don't send me an email that says Randy 313131. If you want to be notified about this stuff and be in the drawings we're working on, text Randy, R-A-N-D-Y, to 313131.
This is a very broad question.
Very broad questions.
Do you have any tips on getting first-timers close on archery elk in Colorado?
Oh, any tips on getting first-timers very close to archery elk in Colorado? No, not really. I mean, that is a very broad question. It would be in archery season, they're bugling. My tip would be go in there way before daylight. Get in there at least an hour before and start calling. Listen to where they are. And in the dark, get as close as you possibly can by paying attention to the wind. You'll be surprised how close you can get.
How do you keep your rifle scope lens from fogging up in all weather conditions? I mean, I'm assuming they're talking about cold weather.
Yeah. I've never had a rifle scope fog up on me. Make sure your eye relief is proper. You don't want, for a lot of reasons, you don't want your eye relief so narrow that you got to put your eye right up to the scope. First of all, you're going to scope yourself. Second of all, yes, you're going to have that moisture. You might breathe and it's going to go into the lens and fog it up. The Leupold scopes I use, I always have plenty of eye relief, so it's really not an issue. To keep snow and rain off it, Leupold's scopes come with these neoprene scope covers, and so I use those. So,
With replaceable blade knives, how many blades do you use on a typical elk?
with replaceable blade knives, how many blades do I use on a typical bull elk? I use the Gerber Vital, and now Gerber has what's called the big game Vital that I'm just starting to use this year. The Vital, a lot of times I can get through a whole elk with one, but if you any of the scalpel blades, if you've used them, you know if you tweak that blade much, boom. So usually, I'd say I probably average 2 blades on an elk. I thought they were going to ask me how many blades does it require for me to shoot an elk with my bow, but I don't know the answer to that.
When you go in the dark, how close can you get using a headlamp? And are you using white, red, or green light?
Use red or green light. Never use white light for a couple of reasons. Your buddy will hate it if you blow that really bright white light at him. Red and green is way easier on the human eye. And if you believe what the scientists say, wildlife can't see the red and greens on the color spectrum. So I go all the way to my glassing spot with a red or green filtered light.
How big of a hunting group would you take with you?
Not very big because I already got 2 camera guys. I don't know. It depends on what you're hunting. Usually it's me, a guest hunter, and 1 or 2 camera guys is what we do. If I wasn't filming, I'd probably take 1 or 2 people is kind of what I would do. And again, that would depend on if I'm archery hunting or rifle hunting.
I didn't know if it maybe meant in the context of like a hunting camp.
Oh, in the context of a hunting camp? Well, doesn't matter to me. However many want to show up. Just know that we're all going to go different directions. Don't want to be tripping and stumbling over each other. But if you have more people, the good news is when you get one on the ground, the work gets spread out. It makes it a little easier for everybody.
I'm getting a warning that we're getting low here.
Oh, Michael's getting the warning that the battery's getting low, but we got to have some archery questions, like some bow questions, because, Bowtech goes through all of this to publish it. You got any bow questions in there? Everyone asks me what bow I shoot, and I think they all know I shoot a Bowtech this year. It's the Reign 7 Smart Bow. I think last time they asked me what my draw length and pound was, I have it set at 60 pounds, 29-inch draw length. And in the chrono, that goes at 260 feet per second with my 125 grain, 460 grain total arrow weight.
This one this question relates to archery hunting.
Yeah.
If I'm not very good at bugling yet, should I not try it in the field?
That's probably a good question. The question is, if I'm not very good at bugling yet, should I not try it in the field? I would still do it to try locate. You'll be surprised. I mean, if I can get a bull to respond, anybody can. And if it's that really close encounter and you're not good at bugling, when you hear him, maybe you go in silently and let him keep doing the talking, and you just stay quiet and you get as close as possible until finally bull elk, when they're up and bugling and rutting, they're not just standing still. They're moving around a lot. And if you get really close, pretty soon, if you got the wind and you're being careful, they might get within archery range. So if you are worried about your calling skills, don't put yourself in that situation where you lose confidence. But don't be afraid in the morning to do some locating bugles and then go after them.
How often do you paper tune, and how important is paper tuning?
How often do I paper tune? I paper tune a lot, actually, because you get string stretch that can change the timing in your cams. So I'll do it a couple times. I'll certainly do it when I get a new bow, and then after probably I'd say 100 to 200 arrows, I'll go paper tune it again. And the idea behind paper tuning, let me go grab an arrow real quick. Is that if you want this arrow to be going perfectly straight through the air, you don't want it going through the air kind of crab legging this way. Because and I'm over exaggerating here, but if you're not, paper tuning will tell you if you've got a problem with where your release, your knock, your rest, everything is lined up, not your release, your rest and your knock point. It will tell you by shooting through paper, it'll tear in different ways that says, oh, this arrow is going through the air, not in a straight line, but it's going like this, almost crabbing through the air. And you lose a lot of your energy. Your accuracy is going to be very, very inconsistent. So paper tune anytime you think you might have an issue.
How do you prepare for shooting your bow uphill or downhill? Can you trust your rangefinder?
Yes. How do I prepare? I take my TBR and I put it in bow mode, and it automatically does the trigonometry for me that says, and so again, let's talk about, we've talked about this in the past, but so this is your horizontal distance. You're shooting downhill or uphill, same principle applies. You're up here and your rangefinder says, oh, this is 40 yards, but maybe the horizontal distance is only 30 yards. Gravity only acts on your arrow across the horizontal distance, so you're supposed to hold for 30 yards. That's why you want a rangefinder that already has that trigonometry built into it. That's what the TBR stands for, True Ballistic Range. Put it in bow mode, give it a click, it'll tell you hold for 30 yards and do that. And whether it's shooting downhill or shooting uphill, the principle's the same. The horizontal distance is where gravity works on your bullet, or your arrow in that case.
Does your arrow fly different at sea level versus 8,000 feet above sea level?
Does your arrow fly different at sea level versus 8,000 feet at sea level? Yes, it does, because the air is thinner. If you really want to see it amplified, go and look at ballistics charts for rifles. And same load, same bullet, same everything, same ballistic coefficient, same sectional density. There's a huge difference, or a pretty good difference, between how that bullet performs at sea level versus 8,000 feet. If you think about it, the air is thinner, so the drag on whatever the projectile is going to be less, so it's probably going to have a higher point of impact compared to what it has at sea level. So.
My daughter just bought her first bow.
Okay.
What species do you suggest she pursue in Arizona as a beginner?
Daughter in Arizona just bought her first bow. What species should she pursue as a beginner in Arizona? Whatever she gets tagged for. Javelina, rabbits, deer, antelope. Arizona, you got to draw a tag. Other than The Coos deer hunts are over the counter, and the mule deer hunts in December and January are over the counter. So any of those, I just go do it. You know, people who think you need to be able to draw 70 pounds to kill an animal don't understand the value of a really sharp broadhead and a really accurate archer. So I think we're about ready to wrap this up, eh, guys?
Yeah,
the battery's flashing. So anyhow, folks, thanks for watching. Again, tons of credit to Bowtech, Leupold, onX, Ripcord, Tightspot, Black Gold, all the companies that make this possible. Wouldn't be able to do it without them. And we're getting ready to get into the serious part of season this. Well, let's see, what's today? August 30th. Yeah, we're getting after it very soon. We might end up having to change a day here or there. We might miss a day here or there to make sure that you get notified and be on the list that says, hey, Randy's ready to go live sometime today or this evening. Make sure you've signed up. And again, that's text RANDY to the number 313131. And thanks for watching. Boy, we went longer than normal, didn't we? No? You guys, are you guys there? I can't see you guys with these bright lights.